Well, you're in your new studio.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, we've been. It's in the basement of our house. We've been living here for 2 years now. I'm actually really happy that we lived here, before COVID happened and everything, because I've been able to really lock myself in here and work through all of it. And I love this little space. It's my happy place. Yeah.
Mm. You've been working there during the COVID lockdown, and you now released your first solo album.
Yeah.
What feelings um, have you been playing on this record? Because you have wrote all the music for this record.
Yeah, it was like this entire record. I call it a compilation album because it wasn't a record that was written like a traditional album where you figure out like, okay, I'm going to write a bunch of songs that are going to work together on an album. Like, it was really all individual songs that have been released on my Patreon platform before as individual singles. And I started the Patreon platform in May of last year because, over the years, I've been writing a lot and I had a lot of ideas, and I kind of felt sad that any idea that wasn't something that was going to be at home in the Delain world, that would just go dusty on a hard drive somewhere. And I had tried to do side projects, for example. But at that point, we were also, when I was planning it, we were also so ambitious and busy with Delain that I felt like I couldn't have that kind of commitment to, another project or another band. So I really wanted something that I could do individually. And I don't think starting out I realized quite how individual this problem would be, or this project would become, with COVID. So I started the Patreon as a place where those songs could go. And then, yeah, I didn't know that when I started out, when I was planning everything, I didn't know yet that it would be all that I would be doing, because I've planned it for a while. I thought, I had the release scheduled on my birthday because I thought, I'd been thinking about it for years. And when I thought I was going to do it, I was like, okay, I'll launch on my birthday. And then COVID happened. I was like, this is a weird time to ask people for money. And I almost didn't start at all because I was like, you can't do that right now. But I did. And I'm glad that I did, because if I would have waited until COVID was over, so COVID happened, the band split happened. It was a very intense year. It was a very intense year for all of it. It was an intense year here as well. And, having the Patreon and releasing the song every month has really been something so positive that has really kept me going. Like, with anything that has happened, it would have been so easy to fall into some kind of black hole or do nothing or just overthink things. And instead of that, during all of this, I've had, a song to work on, a song to finish for the next release, or a video to make. So it has really given me something really positive to work on. And I'm also glad that now, because that was the Patreon itself, and just releasing the songs on the Patreon. But I also realized quite early on that, Patreon isn't for everybody. $3 is still, it's still a lot of money. So I don't want my music to be only for the people who can afford it, So I always figured that, of course you have to keep enough exclusive so that it's really valuable to be in the Patreon, to have that experience. But on the other hand, I also want to have things out there for everyone to listen to for free. Okay, if you're listening for free, you will have to listen to annoying ads as well, but still you can listen to it for free. So I figured I had to do it sometime. So then it was a 1-year anniversary. And then I thought, okay, this is a good moment to have like an album with a collection of songs from that first year. And it's a really eclectic collection. Obviously, it's maybe not what people expect, from what they know from me. because in that first year, I still, during a lot of it, I still thought that Delain was going to be in my life as well. So the heavier ideas, I kind of kept them, I was kind of saving them for maybe our next songwriting sessions or whatever. So in the first year, it was mainly songs that I knew wouldn't live in the Delain world. So it's a very diverse album, but I'm mainly going back to your question because I've been circling around your question for 10 minutes now.
Now I have more questions about your answer.
Yeah, exactly. So, but my main feeling is just a feeling of gratitude that I've been able to have something so positive and so supportive and something that just kept me going through such a sucky year. So yeah, my main feelings are gratitude because I feel really privileged that I've been able to do this through everyone's support. Yeah, so that's really cool.
I have some questions about your answer, as I said. For example, how could you deal, because you have released your songs in your Patreon,
Yeah.
but you have released this album with Napalm Records. How difficult was for you to have a good deal with the label for this record?
Well, actually, it's only digital and vinyl. The digital I do myself, so I have only a distribution and a production deal for the vinyl with Napalm Records, which also tells you something about how cool they are, because that's a really small deal. And they're still, as you know, because you've arranged this interview through them,
Yep.
like they're still helping me out with press. They're still helping me out with a lot of things. Yeah, I think that that's really cool. So I'm still kind of doing this individually. This is the vinyl that comes out through Napalm Records because, of course, I have a great experience with them. And yeah, also there, like I'm really happy that they are jumping on board, even with such a small deal that I know within everything they do is not even that financially interesting or whatever. So I'm just glad that they're on board just because they want to be on board. Yeah, so that has, and that also was possible because, they didn't have to give me any advances or whatever because, the songs were already made.
Yeah.
They were already paid for. So, yeah, the only thing that needs to happen is make the vinyl and put it out there, which also makes it easier for me to get a deal that keeps me independent. Because obviously, sometimes people say mean things about labels sometimes, but it makes a lot of sense that if they're putting a lot of in there, that they'll want to get something out of it as well. But yeah, for this, they also didn't have to put too much in there because everything was already there. Yeah. So it's also that has been a really smooth sailing. No.
And when you started writing the album, how can your departure from Delain affected to your music, because it was a totally different new life for you?
I think it's still a bit early to tell. Like obviously, during most of last year, we were talking about how are we going to overcome these problems? Are we going to overcome these problems? Are we going to continue as a group? Are we going to split? And this was very stressful. And even though I have never, I haven't written about those problems specifically, I have felt that stress, and I think that is also something that when and I think that is something that for some people, for me it came from the band, but just a lot of pressure. I think that is something that other people can relate to as well. When I was really sick of 2020, like I wasn't only sick of COVID, I was sick of the insecurity of not knowing what was going to happen with the band as well. I was also going through some personal stuff, like that kind of mood that affected the music, obviously. And still, it's not. I don't think it's a. I think the album is still upbeat at a lot of points, because usually when I write, even when it kind of departs from a place of sadness or stress, or I do always try to think like, if someone was sitting next to me and they were feeling this way, what would I want to say to make them feel better? You know, I write the songs not necessarily to wallow in the sadness, but I think if I feel like this, like what if I would put on the radio, or if I put on Spotify, what would make me feel better now? Or, what will make my imaginary friend who was feeling this way? Because often you're nicer to someone else than you are to yourself. So I often pretend it's not my feelings, but it's the feeling of someone else that makes it easier. And I feel like if it's a friend, like, what would I say to them? So I think that kind of prevented it. That kind of approach prevented it from becoming kind of a sad record. Because obviously it's, this COVID has had a lot of impact on a lot of people, and on me as well. And just such a big life change, saying goodbye to something that has been such a big part of my life for such a long time. That is very impactful as well. But yeah.
How do you feel now?
Now?
Yeah.
Better every day, I think. It's... I notice that a lot of people, when they talk to me now, they feel like it's already way in the past. For me, it's not. It still feels quite fresh.
That's what I feel when I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
That it's fresh, like
Yeah.
maybe not yesterday, but few time, and I feel you that you are in that mood. No?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. It's like 16 years. You're not. That's not over in one good night's sleep. But I do notice that it's getting better from the fact that some parts are getting better, some parts are getting worse. I do notice that I'm getting better from the fact that, for example, when COVID started, I was kind of happy to not be on a stage for a while. And then when I was enjoying making the music a lot, I thought maybe I should just lock myself in the basement forever and just write songs and not come out, And one of the moments where that kind of shifted is when I was performing with Timo for some live streams, and I was on a stage, and it had been like a year or more than a year since I'd been on a stage. And then I felt like, okay, no, this is something that I do need to do. And like, I noticed that a lot of things that I thought, even a few weeks ago, like, it's hard to imagine that some things are getting easier to imagine again, like performing live and that kind of things. So that's positive. That's definitely positive. The thing that I'm not looking forward to, obviously, is, at some point, Delain will start doing things again, and I will not be a part of it, and I'm not really looking forward to that. But that is also something where I'm like, just be a good sport. In the end, I do really wish the best for everybody, but I'm not going to lie, it's probably going to be a little bit painful. Yeah. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah, you've been writing totally different music if you compare your solo album with Delain. Is it a way of escape of Delain's world? Because maybe as it is a different kind of music, it can be a different way of see the music live,
No, it wasn't so much like that. I was also writing, like, I was also still writing heavier things, but like I said in the beginning, I just chose to not put that out because I thought, maybe we're still going to release them with Delain one day. And then, obviously, in the last couple of months, so this record is just from the last year, or from the first year of Patreon. If you listen to the songs of the month for the last couple of months, for example, you will see that, the songs are heavier, because I chose to finish some of the heavier ideas as well. For me, it's always been I'm very all over the place when it comes to my musical taste. I love melancholic music. I feel like I really am like a goth girl at heart. Um, but it can kind of express itself in different music styles. I've seen a lot of people who, on the basis of this particular record, think that, oh my gosh, Charlotte's never making metal again. I wouldn't say that, but this is another side of me. It's not like it's going to be the only side from now on. Like I am already, and I will also explore the heavier side still. And I think even more so now. But yeah, it was also nice to just, because normally I would always only focus, on the heavy stuff. So it was nice to just think like, now it's a song of the month. It can be anything. No one has any expectations of what it should be in style. And now if it was a pop song, okay, then it's going to be a pop song, It's going to be electronic. Okay, let's make it electronic. It was kind of nice to write it out and just see, what if I wrote this kind of song? And then kind of be surprised by the fact that, okay, this kind of feels personal to me too. I always thought that was something that I could mainly do in the heavier genre, but I feel like I could. I think that I could make music as diverse as I listen to. That would be nice, actually.
How can an artist, or well, can an artist survive just with a platform like Patreon nowadays?
I can.
Do you think it's a real possibility for more artists?
Yeah, I do. I do think that it makes a big difference if you already have quite a following. If you start from zero and you have no one listening to your stuff yet, and you just expect to start a Patreon and people will just pay you, like, that's not going to work, obviously. But if you either already have a platform and you think of a good and creative way to translate that to Patreon, or you're starting out and you've got something that you think is really, I think it's a very sustainable system. It's very transparent. You're not funding one big project, but you're funding your own income, which makes a lot of sense for me since I'm working individually now. Of course, if you were to do it as a band, it would be much more complicated. I am doing the Patreon full time now. And, sometimes people ask me, like a lot of people have asked me, of course, because I come from the situation of being in a band and everything. And I tell them what I do now. Like, I do a song every month and people pay me. And they ask, yeah, but what are you going to do? What are your plans? And I'm like, I think it's pretty damn impressive that this is a sustainable, like, I'm so excited about this platform. And I feel so privileged that I can do this. Don't get me wrong. I want to be on stage. I want to make records. I want to do all of those things. But at this point, like, I'm very grateful that I get to make music and that there's people listening and supporting it and making that possible. I think that that's a very good place to be, and I'm really, really happy about that. So yes, I think it's a good system.
So the social media is even more important now, because you have to move that funds to your Patreon, and then you can make new music. How big is how important is the social media for the success of your Patreon?
I don't know entirely. I'm tempted to think that it's very important, like you say, because it's kind of where you show people who you are. And then if they don't know you yet and they know who you are, and you show them parts of your work, and then if they're interested and they like it enough, then they can make a step to the Patreon. like within this system, it's very relevant. I cannot tell you how important exactly it is or how important it would be compared to someone recording a record, pre-social media days. Like I think you'd have to do extensive studies in order to prove something like that.
But in your case, do you think it's been quite important for the success of your
Yeah, I do
Patreon?
think so. I've always. It's also one of the reasons why I thought that Patreon could be something for me, because I really enjoy doing social media. Like I mainly enjoy doing Instagram. I enjoy doing blogs. I enjoy sharing and oversharing things about my cats and my garden and my plants, and I really like to be personable with people. I really like to connect with the people who are listening to the music. And I think that those are all things that kind of work in your favor if you're doing a Patreon, because for me, the Patreon is also a community.
Yep.
And on social media, you can have that sense of community, but you also get the trolls and the people who don't really want to be there, but they're just following you so they can, talk shit.
Yep.
And I really see that in the Patreon, it's like a group of people that actually choose to be there. So it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot nicer. Like I wouldn't know where to promote my stuff if social media has stopped.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, that would be difficult. So I think it's important. But I think, one also follows another. Like I think one led me to another,
Yeah. Well, it's 5:30 here. I think you have more interviews, so it's time to finish. I could speak maybe even an hour, one more hour.
If you have one more question, like I was messing with the thing and I was late. So if you have one more question, I'll let the next one wait for a few minutes. And then maybe, if you have something that you really wanted to ask or that you couldn't get in.
What we can do is maybe if you have another free slot another day, we can talk another day, because I think it's been quite interesting, but I just can do a few questions. So if you are able to that and you want to do it, we can do another day more questions.
Sure. If you've got enough for that, then we can certainly keep going at another moment.
Hello. Again.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me again.
How are you? Just a few seconds since we have been talking.
Yeah, exactly.
You have released your new record the last Friday. So, because we are talking after the release of the album, not before. But you have been, as you said, you've been writing the whole album this entire year. How have you been feeling the? How have you felt the feedback of the people after listening the songs during this time? Because your Patreon fans have listened them before, but the whole community has discovered most of the people the music now. How are the comments or the reviews and that thing?
So far, I can only go from the few reviews that I have seen, and so far these are quite positive. I was quite surprised that I even got some pretty raving reviews from some of the more notorious like metal sites, which was kind of surprising to me, because obviously the route that I've been going with this record was very much from the start, and I think we talked about that last time as well, that the idea was really to find a place for the songs that were not necessarily in that realm. So I was happy to yeah, I was happy to read those reviews. There were, of course, there are a lot of people that are kind of taken back by the fact that it's not what they expected it to be. Um, but yeah, most of them still consider that to be a positive thing, and we're like, okay, oh well, this is different, but so I've been really happy with some of the comments that I've gotten. So I've even been happy with some of the negative reviews that I've gotten so far. There was one who said like, oh, this. I think they were talking about the song Masterpiece specifically, where they were like, this sounds like a Justin Bieber production. And I was like, well, you can say about him what you want, but he's working with some top-notch producer, so I'll take that as a compliment. So yeah, no, most negative reviews are just along the lines of, this is not metal, which is, hopefully they'll stick around and I'll be back with metal at one point, So. So yeah, I've been happy with the reception so far.
Yeah, absolutely. The music is very far from the music you were doing before, because
Yeah.
it's, I don't know if we can call more pop, or I don't know how to call it, because it's very eclectic. But for example, in a song like Lizzie,
Yeah.
Alisa from Arch Enemy is singing with you, but in a very completely different way she uses to sing with her band. Uh, how did it happen? Because it's very different from her kind to sing, and to say, okay, yes, I will sing it that way with your new project. How was it, for the first time?
Well, the whole thing was kind of initiated by the fact that we were both invited by Patreon to speak at one of their kind of like talk shows, where they put a couple of creators in the spotlight. And we were both asked to perform at the same episode of that. And we thought, if this would have been like a festival somewhere, or if one of us were performing close to the other, then we would have hung out, we would have maybe collaborated. And it's been COVID, we haven't seen each other in a while. Why don't we just do something cool here, and why don't we just collaborate here? And I remember we had like 2 weeks to go before the event. So we figured, okay, we got to make something. We have 2 weeks. We're going to make it happen. And then, yeah, now it was just a matter of brainstorming, and this idea presented itself. And I started with the idea. We both kind of liked the direction that it was going. And then I think we could have gone for like harsh vocals, but as you know, the song is not necessarily a song that asks for it. Elisa has a phenomenal, clean singing voice. So, yeah, it wasn't actually even a conversation at one point. It was just like, we're going to make the song. And since it was this song that we were working on, it kind of made sense to approach it the way that we did. And I think that it was really cool that we could make it happen. And it's also kind of a testament of how how cool this platform is, and about how technology also kind of allows you to do those kind of long distance projects right now. Like, we could do all of this without being in the same studio together. And and that was really cool. Is it your mosquito?
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same as before. I have to kill it.
Mm.
And well, now you have changed everything in your music, and with this new project. I would like to know what are your main goals with it, and if you want to tour with
Yeah.
your project Charlotte Wessels, and if you have that planned, how will it be?
Good question. So I've got a couple of like short-term and long-term plans with what I'm doing right now. A short-term plan that I have is I have one video that I really want to make, and um, when I started this project, I kind of had this big pile of ideas, and I want to kind of have some songs more or less finished. So I think I need to spend some time really focusing on generating more ideas and working them until very far, so that I also have some more time to focus on long-term ideas. Because at this point, now that I'm making the song from scratch every month, that takes up a lot of my time. So I want to make some time free to kind of work ahead, so that I have some more time to think about other things as well. And then those long-term things that I want to think about are, on the one hand, taking maybe some of these songs are completely new songs and looking at how I could take the production to a next level, like on this particular record, which I also think is the charm of it. You know, it's very much a COVID record. It's a from the basement record. Like, a lot of things are programmed that I also think could possibly work very well if they were, if you would record the actual drums and really tweak all of that. So I want to work on something maybe more like a traditional EP or album, or just a song to start even, I don't know yet, where it's more of a long-term process instead of like the one song every month. And then the other thing that I want to work on is, the other part of your question is, I want to bring it to the stage at one point. Touring plans, I don't have any tours planned now, because at this point it's still just me. I still have to think about how I'm going to give shape to all of this. Also, I've been told that since we are coming out of this whole COVID situation, everyone is kind of postponed their tours so much and is planning so far ahead. If I were to book a show now, it would probably happen somewhere at the end of 2022.
Yep.
So I am working on, like, how am I going to bring this to the stage? I'm taking some concrete steps in that, which is the good news for those hoping to see me on a stage again. But the bad news is it might take a while until it actually happens, because I do want to put down something great, you know, especially for the first shows. I really want to try new things and see how I can make this work. That's the one thing about starting over in a way, is that you can also really reevaluate, like, how do you want to do things.
Yeah, well, at least here in Spain, the venues are completely full until the final of the next year of 2022. So probably maybe next year, or it depends of your plans, but maybe even in 2023 could be the best moment when some of the venues are allowed to book a complete tour. I don't know what will be the plans, but well, you neither. So so time will decide. So you would like to, of course, when it happened, but to bring that new music to a different kind of show, a different kind of live show. What could be your dreamed stage for a concert?
My what? My?
Your best, the best thing you could have on the stage for a concert.
See, without saying any very concrete things, because I still really have to figure it out and see what I can do and how I can do it. And I also want it to be a surprise when I do it. But I do want something that's theatrical. I do want something that tells a story. I do want something that is, like, extremely aesthetically pleasing. And ideally, I would want something that, you know, combines music with other art forms.
So like a concept stage, for example, or something like that.
I will definitely put a lot of thought into how I do it. And maybe, maybe I put a lot of thought on it and I end up on doing like something that is,
Two TVs with the with the cover of the album or with the logo of the band, and well.
this is the thing. I don't really feel like I don't really feel like building it up too much or talking too much about what I want to do because A, I'm still figuring it out myself, and B, one of the best things that you can bring to a stage is the element of surprise. So
Yeah, and would you have or do you have an idea about which musicians would be with you in that tour?
I'm thinking about it, yeah.
So it's one thing you are not you have thought about one musician per instrument or maybe more than one.
Well, there's a lot of instruments since the songs that I've written are very versatile. There's some instruments that, for example, I only use them on one song.
Yeah.
So I figured that I myself will have to be kind of maybe jumping from one place or another to fill the gaps there, which is something that I'm excited about because I've only ever sung on a stage. Well, I played the clarinet on stage when I was in my teens, but that's a long time ago. Um, so I am kind of excited to take on maybe a little more roles. And yeah, as for other musicians, like I said, I am really just starting to think about this now. Like, honestly, the whole everything happening with Elaine has stuck with me for a very long time, is still stuck with me, and I haven't really been in the mindset to, I've been very much in the mindset to just do things on my own. So I'm only just carefully starting to think about projects that I would actually need other people for. So it's really premature to think about. It even feels kind of like I get kind of nervous talking about it. But yeah, one day I would like to return to a stage, and so I kind of need to get over that.
Let's see the future. And when the situation gets normal and all the tours starts to reschedule and the bands are really playing, not postpone and postpone and postpone posters. Of course, I guess Delain will be again scheduling tours.
Yeah.
How do you think you will feel when you see the band playing with different musicians?
How do you think I would feel?
No, but I mean, I don't think it will be the best feeling for you. But do you think that, of course, it will take more time, but it will take more time because tours are not happening right now, European tours, for example, or international tours. But do you think if the time goes on and you are developing your own project and you are starting forgetting a little bit more. Of course, it's been 16
Yeah.
years, but
No, I know where you're getting at. See, I mean, I do really wish the best for everyone involved. So, if they're touring again, my higher self is very happy for them. But I'm not going to pretend like it will not be painful to me to see the thing that I've been a part of for 16 years carry on without me. And I know that it has been framed as, going back to the roots. But I mean, I've been there from the beginning, from the debut album, and it feels it. I've done that my entire professional career. That even makes it sound less like I've done it since I was 16, more than half of my life. So I might actually try to, like, I'm not trying to look too much at what's happening over there because I don't want to get worked up about it. I don't. want to make myself emotional by actively seeking out, like, what's happening. So I guess for the time being, while that still kind of hurts, yeah, I just have to focus on what I'm doing myself, and I hope it's successful for them, and I hope that it makes them really happy, and that's yeah. And for me to be happy, maybe in the beginning I shouldn't pay so much attention.
Yeah.
That's maybe the healthiest approach to it.
Maybe. And I don't want to hurt you with this question, but if, for example, you are in the same place, or you are in a festival and they are playing, or they play in your city or whatever, would you attend a Delain concert?
If this was right now, if this was tomorrow, no, absolutely not.
Okay.
No, that's just no, I wouldn't. In time, who knows? I've been told that time heals a lot of wounds, but right now,
Yeah, I guess.
nah.
And well, I've read in some interviews you did before some comments about the social media, for example, with the Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat filters. I don't know about what. And I would like to talk about social media because we were talking the last time about how important is for artists the social media, and to make, for example, a platform like Patreon to grow up. But I would like to know how if you maybe have suffered with social media, with comments or something like that. How much attention or how much does it affect to you?
Let's see. So my entire approach to social media is I kind of enjoy, like, I enjoy photography, so I enjoy Instagram. I like pretty things. I like to share things. I like to connect with people. So in theory, social media is great, but there's of course also a shadow side to it. And the shadow side is that a lot of people look at social media and they interpret it as a some kind of general representation of the life of the people that they're looking at, while it's a highlight reel. It's heavily curated, and that is not necessarily one's day-to-day reality. And I think, for me personally, I think that it's important to emphasize that every now and then, because, and this is not because I'm not really doing those things because I feel like I have suffered from social media, but I think if I'm more looking at, like, for example, when I was a little girl and looking at magazines and everyone looked so different than and I didn't even know that those photos were taken with teams of, makeup, and I want to have a realistic picture out there, and I don't want people to think that they have to look a certain way or act a certain way or even feel a certain way in order to do a certain thing. Because it's not only, for me, it's not only about, and this is something that I have to get more open about, I guess. It's not just about how you look, but also about how you feel. Like, there's quite a stigma around mental health issues, and so when I do things like post myself with a bad filter intentionally, it's to show people, like, a lot of people are using filters and you're not even aware of it, and you think that you have bad skin because everyone's using filters. And so that's my approach to that. as to whether I myself have had bad experiences with social media. I've had a time when there were some people like really actively trolling me, making hate pages, photoshopping my images into like very explicit pornographic imagery. And to be honest, when that happened, the first thing I thought was, oh wow, I have haters. I must be relevant now, you know? This must mean I'm famous. But like in the beginning, it was kind of like, haha. But then at one point, it started getting really gnarly, and you know, there were death threats and rape threats, and even then I was not taking it too seriously because I was like, this is some keyboard warrior somewhere. And then they started sending photos of my family, and I was like, okay, this is where I'm done, you know, you don't go there.
Yeah.
And this is where my lawyer friend helped me out. Um, and yeah, so that was kind of that reached the limit for me. But that is something really extreme. Fortunately, most of my experience with social media is all right. I just have to keep myself in check about, you know, not getting nervous if you don't post a day or something. Because it's also kind of addictive in a way, or, you know, when everyone is so active, and when, you know, these days social media, like for me, it started as, oh, this is fun, I can share pictures of my cat. But it's also like one of your main marketing tools these days. And the fact that that gets so intermixed, that it's both marketing and like a personal thing, that is weird, because for me, but also for people who watch, it's not entirely clear where the personal thing starts, and where it ends, and where the marketing starts. And so I try to be as clear as possible when I say, like, hey, here's my record, buy it. You know, then it's very clear, like, hey, this is my. But yeah, I don't want to see it as something that I use exclusively to sell myself, because that feels kind of icky, you know.
Yeah. Well,
There's lots of challenges in the whole social media. We could probably talk an hour about social media, but yeah.
no, yeah, but it's what you said. Social media are made to be addictive for the people who's using it, because there's a lot of advertisements and many data, which that platforms like, well, Instagram belongs to Facebook, I think, and
Yeah.
all the information or the data of the people or the users are sold to another companies to make the
Yeah.
advertise.
And I also, like, I feel screwed over every now and then. Like just the other day, like like every month I make a song with the Patreon, and then I share the song and I share the Patreon link. I feel like this is something that, I mean, it's true, I do it every month, but it's every month a new song. It's also something that, you know, I'm a musician. People who follow me, I hope they follow me mostly because they enjoy my music. So I don't feel like I'm spamming when I share my song of the month. But on Facebook now, whenever I share a song with a link, I get shadow banned. Like, if I don't pay money for ads, it's getting showed like only to like a very small percentage of my followers, and that feels so mean.
Yeah,
um, and
but
but
then
yeah, what do
that's
you do about
what they want to. If you want to promote your own project or your company or whatever, hey, pay me and I will. But if you don't,
Yeah,
your post will be so to maybe 1% or even less of your
yeah,
followers. So
yeah.
that's how social media works.
That's how it
And
works. That's how they get paid, and yeah. But it's not only that. It's like you said, it's made for people to be addictive. It's not just made to be, you know, financially addictive. Like once you pay an ad, you
oh
got to
yeah,
pay.
absolutely.
But also for um, also just for people who are using it without like any business idea around it, like just the fact that you post a picture and you get like positive feedback, that itself is like a dose of endorphins that a lot of people are looking for. But what I found over the last couple of years, and I say this as someone who's had an eating disorder, so I've had a very strange relationship with people telling me that I look good, for example, because I've had times where I was like not eating a lot, or where I was working out like obsessively, and everyone would be like, "Oh my God, you look so good, you look so healthy," not knowing that in my case that was very unhealthy behavior. And I really had to teach myself, like, yeah, this compliment might give you endorphins, but it's not the thing that gives you, it is not the thing that gives you confidence. Because the kind of confidence that you get from people telling you, "Oh, you look nice," which is the main thing that people tell each other on
social
social
media, yeah.
media. Like the kind of confidence that you get from that is, I did my hair and I posed in this way and I was holding in my stomach and then I look good. It's a kind of confidence that tells you that if you don't do all of these things, you're not worthy of those kind of endorphins. It's the kind of confidence that tells you that, if you don't go to the gym or if you eat that cupcake, you won't be worthy of those compliments. And one thing that I really had to learn is the confidence that I get, for example, from writing a song and finishing a song. Nobody has to like it. Nobody. If I like it, like that gives me the equivalent of 100 million likes. And it's a much healthier way to get your endorphins, from
Yeah.
something that is not based on likes, or even, in normal life, offline life, uh, to get it based on something that doesn't depend on, how you look, because that's ever changing. And if we're lucky, we grow old and get wrinkly and saggy, and, we can only be so lucky.
Yeah. Well, my point of course, is my point of view, but my point of view about the social media is, well, in your case, even more, or because you have a lot of thousands of followers, and you can be called as an influencer in a metal community, or whatever. But in my case, which I have, I don't know, 1,000 followers on Instagram, which is nothing compared with you, but
Still substantial.
or for example with the Facebook page or with the Instagram page of our media, we have a lot of negative comments several times. And
Yeah.
first of all, when I started working here, I was a bit concerned about what that kind of comments say. But after all this time, and I guess for you is the same, but that kind of bullshit you can find. Maybe Twitter is the worst social media for that, because Twitter is a bunch of insults and bullshit. But all that kind of comments, and even the good comments, because uh, Instagram used to be a place where you can find with that everything is good, whatever you do. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what it is, but people says, "Oh, that's amazing," and maybe they haven't listened the song in your case or whatever. But in my point of view, I think it's not very good to pay very much attention to that kind of comments or messages or whatever, because as you said, maybe that's not the reality of what's happening. I mean, people is talking behind an avatar. And
this is true. Yeah, it's very easy to be. It's very easy to be mean when you're anonymous. For me, like negative comments or like the internet bullying, if I have a good day, it will not bother me at all, and I laugh about it. But sometimes if you have a bad day, it can bother you. But it's like you said, like when you're
you have a visit.
when you're just getting used to it. I hope they don't call again. When you're just getting used to it, it's kind of unsettling. But as time goes on, you learn not to pay it any mind. So
Yeah, I guess if you have to go to open the door or whatever, you can. Don't worry about that.
I think whoever needs to get in has a key. So, and if they don't, they will call me. I did just put the sound off, but I will see it if they call me. So I'll be good.
Don't worry. If you have to go to the door, don't worry. This interview is a very comfortable interview, or it has to be. So don't worry about that. And well, we can be here talking for hours, as I've been feeling this interview and the last one. But I just want to ask you the last two topics of the interview. First of all, here with the magazine, this is the last one we released. We have a section where we talk about the true life of the musicians. We like to know some anecdotes, or maybe where the musicians or the artists have had the biggest amount of people, or even the lowest amount of people. That kind of, or how you the musicians. How do you say that? Warm up before a concert and that kind of stuff. So I will ask you about it. And first of all, could you say who, or if you have some pets, who do you miss more when you go on tour?
I mean, I miss my husband, my cat, my family, and my plants
Your
and my
plants.
friends. Yeah, I have between 100 and 150 house plants upstairs. So,
Oh damn! So your house is quite big.
no, there's just a lot of plants. There's barely any room to sit. Yeah. Though I can't complain about the house either, but it's very full of plants.
I mean, I have two plants, and they are two plastic plants, so they don't need me. But they were in the house before I arrived, so it's not my
Okay,
fault.
well that's your one redeeming factor.
Yeah, in my case, they are the dogs. Not when I'm on tour, but when I leave my house for a few days, they are the dogs. And about your concerts, where have you had your biggest amount of people in the crowd?
I think it must have been at one of the festivals, maybe Wacken or Masters of Rock, or one of the bigger summer festivals, maybe Graspop. I wouldn't know exactly which one. If we're looking at like venues instead of festivals, I think it was when we were opening, maybe when we were opening for Within Temptation in like the Wembley Arena. I think those were probably the biggest. The smallest?
Yep, that is the next question.
I don't remember which one exactly, but I do remember that we were circling the streets trying to look for it, and we couldn't find it. So at one point, we walked into a snack bar. We're really we're talking beginning days here. So we walked into a snack bar, like a tiny little place. I think it was in Germany or something. And we were like, hey, do you know where this venue is? And they were like, yeah, sure, it's in our basement. And I remember that it was tiny. It was really, really tiny. The stage was not a stage, but it was just a few planks on the ground, so it was a little bit higher than the rest. I remember that they were trying to plug in like our entire system. But when I plugged in like my hair dryer, all of the power went out. So that's the smallest.
Oh damn!
Yeah.
And that's a good anecdote. But do you remember when you think about your past tours? Do you remember some stuff before than the other because it's been I don't know a crazy day or a crazy concert? What do you remember first when you think about crazy moments?
I mean, the craziest show or the craziest tour,
No,
or
maybe situations, you know. Maybe,
I mean,
for example, like that you plugged your hair stuff and everything was without power. So, what do you remember?
I guess the craziest show that I've done, where I still most surprised that I even finished the show, must have been it was a Dutch club show, and it was really hard because I had a. This is not funny. This is just sad. I had a funeral that day,
Oh,
actually, and it was a funeral of my grandmother. So it was really heavy to get into that mindset of going to a show anyway. And then on top of that, I ate something wrong, and then I got food poisoning. So I spent I had to leave the stage 5 times to throw up.
oh, damn!
And
But just
that was,
from the mouth,
yeah, that was probably the
or
worst
from
show
both
ever.
sides.
No, 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 this side, this side.
Okay.
So that was the worst show ever. But that was mainly like it was very sad. And then, I mean, maybe the food poisoning was kind of funny in hindsight. Another really crazy one is the one where I got arrested right before the show.
What did you do?
Nothing. I did nothing.
Nothing, but you were arrested.
I was arrested. So the thing is, I was just, this is a Dutch story. So I was just riding my bike, as we do. And at one point, a police officer, he cycles next to me. It was like, can I have a look at your bike? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like mostly when they do that, they're either checking if your lights are working because otherwise you get a fine. But I just had my lights switched. So I was like, I'm all good. And then he was like, yeah, we'll have to take you down to the office. And I was like, what? And I didn't know what was going on. But so here's the thing. I had parked my bike in front of the police station. And apparently they keep a file of all the bikes that are stolen. This bike, I had it already for 2 years. My dad bought it for me at like a legit market. He paid like a legit price for it and he got like a receipt and everything. Turned out that bike was actually a stolen bike. It was a super expensive bike. And yeah, since it was parked in front of the police station, they just did some random tracking and they were like, hey, this is a stolen bike. So then they took me down to the office and they were like, yeah, you're arrested for, or first they asked me, where'd you get the bike? And I was like, my dad bought it for me. So I read it out my dad, but I didn't know yet that I didn't know it yet, but I had already read it out my dad. And then they were like, yeah, but you still have to stay here and you will have to, you have to sign these forms. You have to give your bike away, which was very mean because I was not yet an adult. I should have gotten a call and I didn't. And they just made me give my bike away. While since my dad bought it at a legit place, I should have had to keep it. Or, they should have found another solution. But it was a whole thing. And it kept me super long, and I was super upset. I was telling him, like, I have to get to a show, and don't be mean to my dad. He didn't know.
But could you do the show?
So I made it to the show. It was changeover when I arrived. So the opening band had already played. I was rushing in. Like, I finished my makeup during the intro. I ran on the stage. And I was like super shaky and kind of in a bad mood. And I remember the guitarist said something about it. And he was like, you will have to forgive Charlotte. She's having kind of a bad day. And the audience was kind of like, boo, And then I was like, I was arrested. Everyone was like, yeah.
Oh,
So
damn.
one thing that I have to add to that before I read out my dad again is that there was a whole ordeal afterwards, and everyone agreed that he couldn't have known, and he didn't have any it didn't have any consequences for him. So yeah. But yeah, so I was arrested before the show. I think that one's funnier than the food poisoning one.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what has been your most luxury moment on tour?
Oh, there was one time we were in Brazil, and I got a hotel room, and I called the reception because I was, hey you guys, this hotel room has 2 bathrooms, and there's 4 beds, and there is a living room here. I think I got the wrong hotel room, and they were like, no, it's yours. I was like, are you sure? They were like, yeah. And I mean, I don't know who thought that I needed all that, but
But when the bill arrived, was it a mistake or was it your
I
room?
think I think this was one of those where the offer included like hotel and whatever. So we didn't even pick the hotel ourselves, or we did it like it was all included within the booking deal. I think it was one of those because we would never like normally we always share hotel rooms and stuff. Like we're not like up until very late. So
Yeah. And for you, what has been your best tour ever?
ah, I don't know.
Has
Uh,
been some of them you have enjoyed more than ever?
yeah. Let me think. I really liked when we did a European tour with Within Temptation. I also always really liked touring with Nightwish, but then we also toured with Anneke and Amorphis in the US recently. But that was also like there were a lot of stressful things at that tour happening. Like there's always very stressful moments at a tour. I don't think I've had one tour where some things haven't been really stressful. But there have been a lot of tours that had a lot of highlights. So yeah.
I remember one of your tours because when I started writing on the first magazine I wrote, the first concert I attend and I was doing an interview there was your concert with
Yeah.
Delain and Cobra and the Lotus on Madrid when I lived on Madrid, and I was talking with Cobra that day, so I remember that concert. And it's special for me because it was my first concert as journalist
Yeah.
for a bigger magazine here. So I remember it. I guess it's not the tour where you have more anecdotes like the anecdotes you have told to me, but it was very special for me, and I remember a lot. Your hair color was different. I think it was like
My hair color is
Latin.
different every day.
Yes.
I get bored easily with it. So
And well, the last part of the interview is the shortest, and I would like to know which ones or why are your favorite albums of all time. It can be heavy metal or whatever.
okay. So I think Amnesiac by Radiohead is one of the favorites. It was something that I've never heard before, something like that. It's still one of my favorite records, even though it's kind of strange or unusual. Never Forever by Kate Bush. I love that one. It's one of the records that got me into. It's one of the records that got me into singing, along with the Cranberries and Joni Mitchell, and then I guess Toxicity by System of a Down is really a big one.
A few days ago was the 20th anniversary of that record. I think I don't know if the last Saturday of the previous one was the 20th anniversary.
Wow.
that makes me feel I'm a little bit old.
Me too. I remember when. I remember when Chop Suey came out. That was a jam. Anyway, yeah. So that's also a big one for me, and it got me through. Got me through a very boring job.
I think
Yeah.
two albums left.
Oh, 5? Okay.
Yeah, 5.
Okay. Let me think. Mike Oldfield, Tubular Bells.
And why?
It's like every time I listen to it, it's like magic. And it's one of those records that I never just listen to it. I listen to the entire thing and I pay attention. And I don't know, it just feels kind of magic to me. I know that my parents always tell me that they used to listen to it when my brother was born. I always think maybe they're mistaken. Maybe they were listening to it when I was born. And it's like the first sounds that I heard as a baby, because I always get like this. It's some kind of magic to me. Also sparked my love for horror films. And then finally, I think probably maybe some more classic. Old. I mean, Tubular Bells is old, but maybe like Led Zeppelin 2. And I'm going purely by, you have some records that you listen to for a while and then they kind of get old. But these are kind of records that I've listened to on repeat in multiple times of my life. So I loved this record when I was 13, and then I loved it when I was 17, and then I loved it when I was 25, and then I loved it when I turned 30. It's certain records that come back to you at different stages of your life, and you have a different feeling with them, like every time that you put them on repeat. And then the older you get, the more meaning they get, because the first time you listen to it, it's the time when you first fall in love, and then the next time you listen to it, it's, oh my God, this is so nostalgic because now I have to think of this. And so it keeps adding drama and momentum to records like that. And just the fact that you can listen to something so many times and still not be bored of it, I think is pretty impressive as well.
Yeah. So well, it's a good list. and well, I will. Well, the interview I think is over, but don't hang up. I will give you a proper farewell later. But well, I will say you thank you for your time,
Sure.
the last time and even today. And well, for all the people, the new album is out in all the streaming platforms. You can listen to it whenever, and eating, sleeping, or whenever you want. And and well, do you want to tell something to the Spanish fans, or well, the worldwide fans, because this is an interview in English?
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much for checking out the interview. First of all, thank you for checking out Tales from 6 Feet Under. If you're going to, I hope that you'll enjoy it. If you do like it and you cannot wait to hear more, then also feel free to check out the Patreon, because I'm still doing like a new song every month. There's also some songs on there right now that are a little bit closer to what people might know me from the past, like more towards the symphonic side. So if you're curious, have a look. And yeah, just in general, also if you don't do any of these things, but you just share things. So just thanks for your support. I appreciate it. Thanks for checking it out. And I hope that I can be back in Spain, or basically from wherever you are listening right now. Hopefully even maybe on a stage at one point.